Greetings, fellow Greymanes!
Well met, you cunt.
Crimson Desert is a massive game, and I don't just mean the map. I mean the sheer amount of stuff. Things to do, systems to learn, places to find, lore to read. There are mechs, there are dragons, there are MMA moves, there's a bear you can ride, there are mini-games, research institutes, construction systems, fishing, alchemy, horse drifting, cat collecting, and a codex so deep I could spend a week just reading it. This is a game that genuinely does not care if you ever touch the main quests. I put in over 40 hours before I seriously engaged with the main story, and by the end, I still felt like I'd only seen a fraction of what's here. When I decided to review this game, I wanted a more unfiltered experience. So I did what any reasonable person would do. I played the entire main story without upgrading my HP a single time. One other rule I set for myself, the only revives I allowed were Palmer pills I found out in the world. No crafting them. If I didn't stumble across one, I didn't have it. Look, the no HP thing isn't just a bit. It's actually one of the best ways to stress test a game like this. Every sloppy hitbox, every unfair one-shot, every genuinely brilliant boss pattern, it all gets amplified when you have zero margin for error. It's a filter, and what it filtered out about Crimson Desert is worth talking about. So, this is part challenge run, part review, 100-something hours, no HP upgrades, no crafted revives, the full main story. Let's get into it. The game opens by just dropping you into the middle of a camp with Cliff and his fellow Greymates. No preamble, you're just there. The tutorial section is weirdly restricted. You can't run, for instance, which feels like a strange choice for a game that's about to give you a massive open world to sprint around in. The combat tutorial is presented well though, and the scripted death that sends you to the realm of uncertainty is a neat setup. Myrden overwhelms Cliff, says,
What's that? Got something to say? Go on then. Out with it. I'm all ears. Well, you had your chance.
slits Cliff's throat and throws him into the river. Remember this bit, it's important. I just wish they would have done more to actually teach the player here. The Abyss looks absolutely stunning, and it's where you learn the precision jump mechanic, which I really hated at first. You hold left bumper and then press X to jump. Now, I eventually find out you can just jump, you don't have to use this mechanic, so it's just a nice feature for people that are worried about where they will land. You also learn how to fire a beam of light from your sword as a puzzle mechanic, which is really neat, and they use it a lot throughout the game. Y is also an unarmed attack, which immediately made me excited about what the combat could eventually become. This is where I had to pull up the controls though, since the combat tutorial does an awful job explaining what you're actually doing. Then there's the map. The full world map itself is gorgeous, dense, and endlessly easy to get lost in. I saw it and immediately knew I was going to spend way too long not doing the main quest. The prologue wraps up when you save a map maker who leads you to a settlement, kicking off chapter 1. The soldiers in this section gave me big Witcher vibes, and the costumes in this game are honestly some of the best I've seen. The armor is high fidelity, the dresses are gorgeous, and importantly, you actually get to see the gear changes on your character. That sounds like a low bar, but some games still fumble this. One thing that stuck out early, the way you learn mechanics in this game is kind of weird. Tutorials are few and far between, and the ones that are there are oddly unhelpful most of the time. I think they keep things vague on purpose, but it does mean you spend a lot of time slightly confused about what your buttons actually do. As you explore the first city of Hernand, you start unlocking knowledge, which is basically your codex, but an enormous one. Detailed entries on locations, characters, history. I used to spend hours in Dragon Age reading this kind of stuff, and Crimson Desert has an absolute mountain of it. Easily one of my favorite things in the game. Throughout the city, you can interact with the environment in all sorts of ways. Lean against walls, sit on ledges, even pick up cats. And yes, I did spend a non-trivial amount of time chasing a cat that looked exactly like mine in real life. Apparently Cliff has cat magnets in his hands. This is definitely a vibes game. It's so easy to just get lost in the world, and the game is all the better for it. The first quest I stumble into is helping people clean their chimney. Standard stuff. But then I find the tavern, and there's an arm wrestling minigame where you mash until a little circle icon pops up, and then you stop a rotating line inside. It's simple, but it is really fun. There's also gambling in here. There's challenges for win streaking these mini games throughout the world, and they kept pulling me in every time I found one. I find a quest where I need to make fish porridge, but I make it too fancy. I throw a box and Cliff gets stuck inside. Luckily, there's an escape button, and I cannot stress enough how important this is in a game this massive. In my opinion, every open world game like this needs one. The mask system here is clever in concept. There's a back alley merchant who sells you a mask, or you can find ones on bandits, and wearing them lets you commit crimes without it affecting the main story's believability. But the execution is kind of weird. If nobody's around, you still just can't steal stuff without the mask on. It just breaks the immersion in a different direction. The combat is starting to make more sense to me around here. Lock-on is actually on the D-pad, which feels awful, and you can't switch targets with it, which becomes a real problem during certain fights. Left bumper blocks, right bumper attacks, right trigger heavy attacks, and you can hold your attack buttons down to keep comboing. Press different buttons while holding right bumpers, such as Y, X, or A, to trigger weapon-specific attacks, like stabs. There's a real system here, it's just not explained very well. Now, this is where the game really starts to show its hand. Like Breath of the Wild, different areas have different temperature mechanics. hotter or colder zones that require specific gear or food to survive. The gear system is pretty robust, allowing you to customize different pieces of equipment to your liking. You can also upgrade weapons and armor with materials found in the world. This means, a lot like the Dark Souls games, you can basically use anything you want, upgrade it, and tweak it to your liking. Fishing is here too, and it's pretty good in my opinion. It works like some of the Yakuza games. You pull the line in the opposite direction the fish is swimming until it tires out, then rotate the stick to reel it in. Feels satisfying every time. Your main leveling currency is abyssal artifacts. You get these through quests and side activities, and some are even locked, where you need to complete challenges like sliding a certain distance to unlock them. It's a fun way to reward players for actually engaging with the world rather than just grinding enemies. Speaking of which, the XP bar is to the left of the compass. Killing enemies fills it. When it's full, you get an artifact. This took me an embarrassingly long time to figure out. The horse is also worth mentioning. As you level it up, you unlock new abilities. A kick, a charge, and most importantly, a drift. The double jump is kind of just bad, honestly. It doesn't come out a lot of the time. But the drift acceleration and quick start are absolutely worth leveling up. You can also find a Visione headpiece that lets you collect what's called memory fragments, which give you lore about an area's past. This is a cool idea, but honestly, I don't think this item needs to exist. The Witcher, for instance, had very similar sections without the need for a whole separate unique gear piece. And then I find the bear. You can ride a bear. It terrifies enemies, and I cleared out an entire camp with one swing. This is peak gaming. The main quest also unlocks 2 traversal tools that change how you move around significantly. The Axiom Force is basically a tether. It works a bit like something out of a Zelda game, and it opens up a bunch of puzzle solutions throughout the world. And then there are the wings, which let you glide. This sounds great in theory, but they burn through stamina way faster than you'd expect. I was genuinely surprised the first time I tried to cross a gap and ran out halfway. They have patched this, and the wings use way less stamina now, but they still feel a bit lacking for some reason. Let's talk about the combat more seriously, because this is where the no HP run really starts doing work as a review tool. The system on paper is really ambitious. 3 playable characters who all feel different. Cliff is your melee brawler with an emphasis on combos and grabs. Damiane is faster and more elegant, with a rapier and greater ranged utility. She even steals some tech from the legendary Ryu Hayabusa. Oongka rocks a great axe and an orc blaster and can also dual wield 2-handed weapons. The ceiling here is real. The problem is the light attacks have almost no hit stun, which means when a new player is learning a new boss, which most people do by throwing out light attacks, they get punished constantly, and it doesn't feel fair. It took me embarrassingly long to figure out that the game really wants you to lean into heavy attacks, force palms, grabs, and parries. Once you do, the combo chaining opens up in a satisfying way. The Excavatron is a good early example of this tension. It's a cool looking boss with an interesting enemy design, but the hitboxes aren't very intuitive. And there's an attack you need to sprint away from where Cliff kept auto-climbing over random boxes mid-combat, slowing him down just enough to eat the hit. With no HP upgrades, that was a death every single time. Frustrating fight. Great design, rough execution. The Matthias fight, on the other hand, was excellent. The pump kick is really fun. You can wall bounce with it, and the fight just feels good. This is what the combat can be when it's working. The first big skill moment for me was the stagboard fight. I learned here that when bosses flash, an unblockable is coming. Once I understood this, I just countered his normal attacks with the spear and took him out pretty cleanly. His death scene is striking. The stark contrast of the crimson blood on the snow-white stairs is really gorgeous when the lighting hits it right. Great fight, great reward too. A really solid shield. Now, before we go further, let me tell you what I was working with, because the no HP thing is only part of the picture. My main weapon for most of the run was a Wells sword, which I only upgraded to +6 by the time I finished the game. My armor was also sitting at +6 by the end. For context, that's pretty underleveled for where the story takes you. So alongside having no HP upgrades, I was also running gear that wasn't anywhere close to where it probably should have been. This wasn't just a gimmick, it was a full commitment to being underprepared. That being said, I did get some really strong abyssal gears that I used for most of the run, and spamming food items is not off the table. Notably the one you get for killing Crowboy, and the one you get for killing the legendary Black Wolf. These were responsible for a lot of the damage and stun I was able to build up on later bosses. Spear got a lot of use early on against the Stag Lord specifically. It just synced well with all his patterns, and it was also my go-to when learning an enemy pattern, since the counter gives you some good damage without being as risky as a parry or a dodge. And I used the sword for fights like Hex Marie, where staying aggressive mattered more than range. I did spend an embarrassing amount of time lusting for the shotgun axe after seeing a boss drop one mid-fight and then watching it disappear when he died. That was just devastating. But it turns out you can just buy these from the vendor, and it's absolutely worth it. There's also some unique gear scattered around the world worth hunting for. Gloves that help with pickpocketing, gloves that increase horse XP, the plate armor of shadows near a watchtower, climbing boots from the spider dungeon, a hat that lets you see ore deposits. The item descriptions in this game do a nice job hinting at secrets without being too on the nose, and I like this. And if you like this video, consider leaving a like and subscribing to the channel. I make all this content by myself, so any support is greatly appreciated. Anyway, back to the video. Our next major area is the Scholastone Institute, and this place is absolutely gorgeous. It reminded me of a Final Fantasy XIV hub world mixed with Cosmo Canyon. I could have spent hours just wandering around here. But this area also introduces one of the most frustrating quest types in the game. You need to track down a missing book by questioning important NPCs around the Institute. At the end, you have to answer questions, and if you get something wrong, the game gives you zero indication of what or why. I like that this game doesn't hold your hand, but this just feels mean. And then there's the character switching problem, which this area really highlights. You get Damiane as a playable character. She's great. Her combat feels completely different. And then the game immediately decentivizes you from using her. The whole quest here wouldn't progress because I wasn't playing as Cliff. Why give me a full second character with her own skill tree and moveset and then basically say, cool, go back to Cliff now? Makes the whole multi-character system feel like a feature demo rather than something that's actually integrated into the game. Oh, and while we're on the subject of things that are weird, the controls listed for the Force Palm upgrade on the skill tree are very poorly worded. After your first Force Palm, it kind of looks like the game tells you to press L3 and R3 simultaneously to follow up. But if you do this, it doesn't work. You have to press L3 or R3. I have no idea how this distinction made it through, but it's the kind of presentation that will make some people think they're doing something wrong when the controls are just not explained very well. We stumble across a spear competition that's pretty fun though. The health bars looked kind of like a fighting game, and there's a 3-win streak for completion again. Same with the shooting contest, which is actually pretty hard but pays out decent money. And the unarmed contest, which has a few wrinkles. Charge attacks and grabs don't count as unarmed. Important to note. You can also equip gloves as a secondary weapon, which gives you different unarmed attacks than just pressing Y with something else equipped, which is a fun little system. Let me take a detour here, because I spent a lot of time in the side content, and it's worth talking about. Now, the good research institutes are scattered around the map. NPCs you can invest money into to unlock things over time. Replenishing arrows, new formulas like the Palmer Pill, and at Scholastone you can even unlock new forms of transportation. These take in-game time to complete, not real time, which is a nice distinction. There are legendary hunts like in Red Dead Redemption. There's bounties, fort liberations, a quest in the Shy Forest where you get ambushed if you wander in without doing the prerequisite quest first. All I wanted here was to grab a bounty for a new cloak, and suddenly I'm sucked into a whole side quest about a new magical village. That's Crimson Desert for ya. There's also this really cool, almost Resident Evil style puzzle at Glenbright Manor where you turn a light on an orb to get daggers that unlock a secret area. The Reed Devil boss in that area is a fun cinematic fight. Not too hard, but really well presented. Reed Devil minions are interesting too. Spirits inhabiting scarecrow bodies that spawn off little totem poles you have to kill at first. Stands out from the generic enemy types. And then there's Sir Catfish, a pirate boss I stumble into while liberating a village. Fun fight until he nearly had me dead, and then he just started spamming invincibility and yeeting me into the sky. I did get him eventually. You also learn body slam from watching this guy fight, which is really neat. Now for the bad side content. Most of the simpler side quests feel like MMO quests. Go to place, find thing, kill thing. There's one quest where a grocer needs a grain jar, and the store literally 5 steps away sells grain jars. Why can't you just, it doesn't matter. But the world is so good to explore that it carries even these weaker quests, and this is where I want to make a point about how this game is best played. At some point, I decided to go on a journey to Mount Venus. Not because a quest told me to, not because there was a marker on my map, but because I thought the name was funny and I wanted to see what was there. On the way, I got completely sidetracked by a clockwork bug fight inside a tower that looked incredible at night. The lights coming off the bugs, the whole thing. I even found some blue dye while I was in there. Kept going and eventually reached the Venus River. Found some railroad tracks, steampunk robot enemies alongside regular farmers, and a massive city I hadn't even known existed. The whole detour took about 2 hours and none of it was planned. That's Crimson Desert at its best. The game rewards you for just picking a direction and going. It's when you stop following the checklist and start making your own goals that it really sinks. The Mount Venus trip was a dumb reason to go anywhere, and it led to some of my favorite moments in the whole run. There's also the Pywel forest we mentioned before, which might be my favorite area in the entire game. Absolutely gorgeous, mystical green glow at night, and an absurd number of cats. You stop the local children from trying to murder you, and then just vibe. It's incredible. I'll be honest with you, I'm like 40 hours in by the time I seriously engage with the main quest. And the main quest is fine, I guess. The world building is strong, the individual set pieces are often great, but the character writing doesn't do quite enough to make you care deeply about the people involved. For instance, a key character, Aliston, gets stabbed at a story moment, and I'll be honest, at this point I'd kind of forgotten who he was. But the main quest does deliver some of the best gameplay moments in the game. We get spires, like the Spire of Soaring, which are basically this game's Sheikah towers, except instead of just climbing them, there's a puzzle inside you need to solve. Then we chase down Crowboy. Crowboy might be my favorite boss in the game, honestly. This is where the combat fully clicked for me. Combos chain into grabs, and there's a real hit-stun mechanic on humanoid bosses. The fight has multiple valid approaches. I really felt like I had to learn the combat system at this point. This fight also has quite a bit of lore significance, but I won't spoil that. Then there's a castle defense segment where we raise banners and hold off the Black Bears and Inquisition guards, and this was actually really fun. This is followed by the Cassius fight, which uses the environment well. You can slam him into the pillars, for instance, for big damage. Unfortunately, there's a brutal softlock glitch that can happen in the cutscene after. I'm not sure if they've patched this or not yet. What happens is you can get stuck in the cinematic camera and you can't open menus, you can't fast travel, you can't even rotate the camera. The only fix I found was manually walking to the next objective. I got really lucky and just found it quickly, but I imagine some people just drop the game if this happens. We get our first pet around this time too. You build a trust meter by petting them and giving them food. Get this to 100 and you can adopt them. You can even buy them adorable armor and they help you loot. It's extremely cute. Then we get some revenge on Mirrodin. Remember during the tutorial when I said, remember this bit, it's important. Remember this bit, it's important. At the end of Mirrodin's first phase, Cliff grabs him and does this.
What? Got something to say? You little cunt!
The game doesn't linger on it or make a big speech out of it, it just happens. Clean and satisfying. That's the kind of storytelling this game is capable of when it's focused. It's just a shame it doesn't do it more consistently. Later in the main quest, there's a light puzzle that reminded me a lot of the Temple of Light in Ocarina of Time. I've always loved these kind of puzzles, and this one is a good one. Speaking of Ocarina of Time, the boss fight we get at the top of this tower, Goyen, is basically this game's Shadow Link. The fight is really fun, fast, readable, and I'm pretty confident you could no damage it with enough practice. The only frustration is that the grabs feel inconsistent on bosses, and this fight really highlights that. I got some really clean parries and went for grabs, and they just whiffed. I have no idea why, but this fight is still a highlight for sure. Eventually, we get Damiane's story moment. Her boss fight requires a lot of dodging, but I got it first try, probably because I'd already upgraded her and used her so much. The Uzuna drop is just too much fun, she's my favorite. Then we get Oongka. Great Axe, Orc Blaster, Great Hammer, dual wield options. His combat is a little different from Cliff. It's less about combo chains and more about timing. The best strategy in his Ludwig fight with no HP was to parry and then use grab attacks to build the stun bar quickly. Important note about the characters, your core stats such as HP, stamina, and spirit, those are all shared across all three. So my no HP run affected everyone equally. There was no escaping it. The mid to late game is where the no HP run went from a fun challenge to this is testing my character as a person. Hex Marie was a proper nightmare with low HP. She summons minions constantly and has an AoE she can cancel her melee attacks into. That AoE one-shot me every single time with no exceptions. Getting my sword out and staying aggressive was the key eventually. The Tiger boss wasn't particularly notable, he was just annoying because he also one-shot me constantly. He did, however, give me one of the coolest abyssal gears in the game, and I really leaned into unarmed combat after figuring out how good this thing is. And then the game has a stat check mission. Literally just a mission that requires a minimum stat threshold to proceed, which meant technically my run fails here. I had to put points into HP temporarily, complete the mission, then immediately respec back out before the boss fight. Small thing, but it really highlights that the game wasn't designed with a no HP constraint in mind. Difficulty in a lot of places is tied more to stats than skill, it feels like. The game also decided to autosave right before I put my stats back in, so I had to quit the fight, respec, and then come back into the fight so I didn't have to respec every time I died. The boss in question is Master Do, or as I immediately called him, Master Yoda, and I'm sure I wasn't the only one. He even fights a bit like him, using his small stature and speed to try and confuse and overwhelm Cliff. Unfortunately, I was a bit too busy trying not to die to fully appreciate the visuals here. Coming up soon are some really awesome set pieces, the mech and the dragon that were in all the advertisements. But before we get there are three key boss fights that stopped me in my tracks: the Thunder Tank, the Dreadnought, and the Storm Crusher. The Thunder Tank and Storm Crusher are both puzzle bosses built around the same gimmick. You need to absorb their projectiles and throw them back to build their stun bar. Then you need to climb on them and stab their weak point to kill them. The ability that makes this work is called Nature's Snare. You get this from side content. Not the main quest, but side content. So if you skipped that and walked into these fights blind, like I did at first, good luck. No HP, getting hit even once was a death sentence. So figuring out the gimmick was non-negotiable. One thing that helps a lot on the Storm Crusher specifically, sheathing my sword before throwing the projectiles back, because Cliff pulling it out after Nature's Snare can leave you open long enough to get hit. Small detail that saved me a lot of deaths. The Dreadnought isn't as gimmicky, but took me more tries than it should have for reasons I still can't fully explain. The mech and dragon sections in the final bits of the game are genuinely exciting set pieces. A defense mission with the mech, a laser cannon sequence that looks incredible, but this highlights another issue with the main story. This game has a really bad habit of giving you a cool new toy, and then immediately taking it away or not letting you use it. The dragon in particular, which is actually a wyvern, but that's me being being pedantic. They made leashing and riding it feel like a chore, and then barely let you use it freely once you had it. The dragon flight controls are also pretty clunky when you need to do anything precise. This is really highlighted during the Fort Musket fight. The final boss fights are worth talking about, so spoiler warning if you don't want to see those. Corrupted Caliburn is a well-designed fight with 3 phases, each nastier than the last. I had revives and health items here, and I'm not ashamed to say I used them. This one is brutal and it earns it, but I did immediately regret that decision. Myrden, Avatar of Umbra, is the final boss, and it's a smart design. He uses moves from every story boss you fought, and even a few side bosses I think, each with a specific way to dodge them. Second phase in particular has some brutal attacks with no HP, but with patience and parrying we finally got him. Actual last encounter with Umbra itself though is a slog. This gave me big DMC1 final boss energy, but the execution is just tedious. You slowly creep toward a laser wall and then get buffeted back almost instantly. Rinse and repeat. Not the send-off the run deserved, but I didn't die, which means I don't have to redo Myrden, so small mercies. Crimson Desert is a game that has a habit of surprising you. It earns your time through world building, atmosphere, and moments of real combat brilliance, even while it frustrates you with its clunky systems, a UI that makes no sense, and a story that doesn't do nearly enough to make you care about its characters. The no HP run works as a lens because it separates the well-designed bosses from the stat walls. The good fights, Staglord, Matthias, Crowboy, Goyen, Cassius, Corrupted Caliburn, hold up completely when you have no margin for error. The bad ones reveal that the game leans on one-shot damage and messy hitboxes when it doesn't have a good pattern to teach you. Would I recommend playing this game without HP upgrades? Probably not on your first run. The stat check mission alone is annoying enough. But the game is absolutely worth playing. It's the kind of world I want more of, even when it's driving me insane. Crimson Desert launched in a state where it clearly has more to give. More Damiane story, more reasons to push through to the credits, more time to sand down the rough edges, and there are rough edges. Some weird graphical glitches that the dev have been patching fast, but during my run I had some weird artifacting on my helmet indoors, and this strange wall artifacting as well that shows up occasionally where the lighting just doesn't seem to know what to do sometimes. It's disorienting when it happens, and it really clashes with how beautiful the game is the rest of the time. One thing worth noting though, a lot of these issues go away if you turn on ray reconstruction in the graphics settings. The problem is most people are not going to be able to run this game at good graphics settings with ray reconstruction on. With the recent patches, the settings menu is pretty deep on PC, and this one option makes a meaningful difference, so it's worth digging into this before you write the visuals off. I'll be honest, even after 100 hours, I hadn't come close to touching everything. Alchemy didn't click for me until embarrassingly late. I barely scratched the construction companion systems, the research institutes, the full depth of the horse progression. There's a lot of surface area here that I didn't even cover, and that's worth knowing going in. What you're getting from this video is one run, one approach, one slice of a very large game. But what's here is already more interesting than I expected from something that spent so long as a meme about its own development cycle. But I'm not done yet. Pywel has so much to explore, and I'm eager to set forth on yet another adventure in this incredible world. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, consider leaving a like and subscribing to the channel. Now get out there and explore the world of Pywel.